is actually the one at Johns Creek who led this initiative, and he worked with teachers hand in hand, getting them over that management piece. You want to talk a little bit about the experience that you had at Johns Creek?
Well, the technology itself really wasn't as much of a, well, I guess for the teachers when there were so many different things and knowing how to help the teachers troubleshoot individual issues with their technology, but the kids actually know, even like a third grade, it's a third grade classroom where we're piloting this, the kids actually know more about their technology than the teacher does anyway, so they're able to pretty much troubleshoot most of those things, and I would help the teacher with those issues too. But I think the biggest issue that the teacher had to overcome was to realize if the kids are bringing all their technology, there needs to be a lot of things for them to do with that technology, because although we have a lot of technology resources, it just really shifted the amount of activities she had to provide for the kids. But having the LMS is a huge advantage for leveraging the technology in the school, the learning management system, and we use Angel Learning, which is owned by Blackboard. But having that where the kids can go online and do activities the teachers already planned enables the teachers to have the kids kind of working so she can work with kids on other things. So that's what's really important, I think, to be able to have that kind of like center-based instruction, I guess, if you think about it that way, just so that there are always things for the kids to work on.
And our learning management system is present K-12, and we have about 12,000 kids log on in the evenings between 7 and 11 o'clock at night. It's around 10 to 12,000 hits a night. So we've always thought with this BYOT initiative, if they can access all that at night, what would it be if we could access that during the day as well? Because the during the day instruction is so traditional as compared to what they're accessing at night. They're accessing e-textbooks, they're accessing videos, they're uploading assignments, they're checking on their grades. But imagine if they had that ability all day long. So that was also one of the big pieces of the LMS Enhanced was, the whole thing is about access and giving kids access all the time. So it is about the stuff in a way, because we didn't know what the kids would bring, and certainly we had things that we were providing the kids as well. But these are just a couple of the things that were brought in at South Forsyth High School. That was one of our BYOT high schools. Of course, kids were bringing in iPads, they were checking their notes, they were accessing information through Angel during the day. This is a sketch pad that one of the students from the art class was actually using, brought in, plugged in to the laptop. There was a lot of conversation about implementation. So now there are classrooms that look very similar to, well, this is one of our classrooms, where we had to really work with teachers about not needing to be the sage on the stage, that all eyes on me doesn't apply anymore, that management now is a whole different ballgame, and there's got to be a level of trust, and the kids need to know that this is a privilege, not a right. And so there was a lot of work done with policy changes, permission slips, communication to parents, communication to students. All of that was work that was laid. These teachers, we have about 40 teachers that are teacher leaders in this project. They collaborate together. They've shared ideas, even things as simple as devices down, devices up, little hand signals of how the kids would actually learn to manage the technology. There certainly are times when they are up and running. The kids have the freedom to go to different places and different things, and the teachers do have to have a level of trust that they are actually engaged in the learning. Because while Tom is actually a history teacher at South High School, while Tom is teaching history, you may have one child looking up research while he's talking, or checking out a website while he's discussing the content. So there's got to be a level of trust built into all of this. In science, you can see a lot of times the kids actually use the devices to enhance what they're learning in the classroom. So these kids are actually doing a science lab, but they've got their device out where they've looked up definitions of terms, lab reports, and so forth. Math, same thing. She's got her graphing calculator there. She's actually accessed Angel, but that would typically be something that she could not access during the day in class. That would typically be something she would have to wait and access at home. But instead, she's actually accessing that in class and going ahead and being able to work on that using that technology. A big part of this has been about collaboration, because anytime you hear about bring your own technology, it's about access and equity. And so we had to address that head on. And to be honest with you, from the very beginning, because it wasn't about the stuff, it was about the learning, one of the things that we actually do is promote a collaborative learning environment anyways. So how can kids actually use these tools and share with a neighbor or collaborate in a group? You may have one iPhone, but you may have 3 kids actually accessing the information off of that one iPhone. So the access issues and the equity issues tend to diminish when you've created a learning environment where that kind of activity is okay. So here you can see girls that are working together on a map activity that they've actually accessed off of their iPhone. These are some examples of how it's been used in art class. Certainly they've taken a portrait of a child from the camera, and then they've actually done all kinds of different things. This one is one of my favorites. The child sitting in front of a desktop computer that we've provided for him, but he'd rather use his own iPad. And that is not atypical. Kids want it the way they want it, and they love their own devices. So when they can bring in their own, they prefer, whether it's their laptop or their smartphone or their iPad, they prefer to use their own because they've got their bookmarks. They know how to work it. And to be quite honest, typically it's faster. So they actually like to bring their own technology. This is a video of 2 students sharing with you their experience of how they use their iPhones and smartphones to manage their learning.
Use this. You can just put all your homework in here, and then it organizes it into list days or months, and then you can add your classes in your schedule.
Yeah, are you recording this? I don't use my agenda anymore. I just use this homework list. And you can make it have the due dates and the exact times, and you can put your whole schedule, and all the times when you get out. And so, and if you don't do your homework, or when you need to do your homework, it makes it orange. And then when it's late or something, it turns it red. And then when it's completed, you can mark it as completed.
And then when you go to the home screen, there's this little, what's it called?
Notification or whatever.
Yeah, a little notification that says how many due dates you have coming up today or tomorrow. How many assignments.
Show them the note card one.
Okay, and then the note card one, it's an app, you can use note cards, instead of buying note cards and using paper, you can just go through your note cards. And then yeah.
Love that.
Very cool.
So after I saw this, I did decide to buy my son an iPod Touch for his, because I thought, well, if those girls can organize themselves, maybe my son will too, because he refuses to use the paper agenda. But I'll tell you, as soon as he got it, well, not as soon as he got it, but the same week, we started putting in due dates and tests and assignments in the iPod Touch, and I thought, hallelujah, it was worth every penny. So that was just one example of how kids are using it, but just to have the freedom, and I will tell you at the high school level, one of the things that people were worried about was theft, things being lost, it being a discipline issue, but the more we have opened up our campuses, the less and less these things have become a discipline issue. Because where you would have the child actually texting in the cafeteria under the table before, because cell phones weren't allowed, now they're not texting at all, because it's no fun anymore. We've taken the element of, it's something we can't do away. So the high schools have actually reported that it's actually made South Forsyth High School look more like a college campus. They actually have personal learning centers outside of each of the cafeterias where there are walls of desktops, but what they have are kids around tables with their laptops and their devices working during their lunches. And that's what they've chosen to do. And this is a child who's actually talking about how they've used this for art class.
So you have outlined
Christy's face.
Yeah, so like when I draw, it doesn't go on her face, but it goes behind
It
her.
goes behind, okay. Is there any way to make the edges not so clean and crisp?
Yeah, actually I have it, if I deselect, see it's like kind of fuzzy.
Yeah.
And then
It's a tablet.
I can blur it a little bit to make it look more natural. And then I also like to use the smudge tool, of course, to make it look like partners.
Did you hear the teacher asking the student the questions? So can you do this? Because we're not even espousing that our teachers know all these tools. Like Tim said, many times they're learning, trying to stay one step ahead of the students. But that's part of the process. The kids love to come in and show the new things that they're using and they're doing. So these are some pictures of a high school classroom, and then we want to go to an elementary school. But what questions does this elicit, or conversations might this elicit so far in terms of the pictures and the videos? Yes.
Well, I have a question just from a security standpoint. When they log on to your network, they log on to a guest account. Is that how it works? It goes through your filter?
So we do run a separate VLAN so that, you know, we kind of firewall them from being able to tunnel back into, let's say, they can't hack the financial data, they can't hack the student information data or anything like that. And we use the Xeris wireless arrays, and so we broadcast an SSID for students to be able to put their devices on the network. And we kind of went back and forth in the beginning. We had it set up where students could go directly into our Citrix remote access, and that way they would log in with their regular network account, come back into the network in a very secure environment, and we limit them in Citrix. They can't upload, they can only download, so they can't introduce, you know, something with a virus into the network. But what we found is that kids were more likely to be wanting just straight filtered internet access. So we broadcast another SSID where they can just hop on and pull up whatever browser they have, and they're using the same filtered access they would if they were on one of our network computers.
And that's worked really well. And when you go into the BYOT schools, I actually like it myself because you can just hop right onto the BYOT network and then you're off and running.
Yeah, you don't have to. It's not, you know,
Right,
there's no
in some respects.
but there's so many devices for which there isn't a Zen app for that. You know, we don't have one that works on the iPhone or on the Nintendo DS or whatever. So the straight filtered
Has been the best way.
has been the most effective solution we found.
So here are some examples from an elementary classroom, and I think one of the things